Well, good morning. I think we're ready to go. I want to welcome you all to the Investiture Colloquium today, and I think we're ready to be transformed. I know we have a really exciting schedule for today, and just a couple of housekeeping reminders is that you all have ballots, and that if you have to leave early, just leave your ballots with either me or my two colleagues, Luann Wedge and Jeff Goldman. My name is Paula Sullivan, and I'm here to with three of us are going to guide you through this whole process today. Okay? Any questions before we begin? Great, then let me introduce our first presenter, Tiffany Ewigleben. I think I said it right. Yay. Tiffany is married and has one son, Loki, who is 2 years old. She's originally from Arlington, Virginia. She moved here a little over a year ago. She's currently pursuing an associate's degree here and hopes to transfer to Grand Valley State University for nonprofit business administration. She's highly involved with campus student leadership and community and civic engagement. She's a member of the GICC Honors Program, Academic Service Learning Center Advisory Council, Student Scholars, an officer of the student chapter of the Center for Inquiry, and a representative of Student Congress. So having said that, I know it's impressive, isn't it? Without any further ado, we're going to hear what Tiffany has for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's get this going. So this is on a timer, so hopefully this works with my reading. She said, my name is Tiffany Ewigleben. I wrote an academic presentation, but I sort of write like I talk, so let's be a little casual. So hopefully everyone can hear me. I'm sort of losing my voice here, so just bear with me. I never wanted to come here in the first place. Leaving Northern Virginia, my mother, and the only home I ever knew. I hadn't even seen Grand Rapids before I stepped off that plane. I left my job as a children's bookstore manager without so much as a backwards glance, coming to Michigan to support my husband's dreams, sacrificing like so many wives and mothers do. It felt right at the time, even though it was scary. Who am I in this plan? Where do I fit? Doing the right thing for my family didn't necessarily mean I'd be doing the right thing for me, but I left, nevertheless. I hesitated in signing up for any classes at CC. I was 24, a wife and mother of an almost 2-year-old. Too far gone down the path of, this is good enough. What goals did I have, really? What would the point be? I dropped out of high school in 10th grade, screwed around for 5 years, and finally got a GED. I worked pretty much full-time since I was 15. Worked my way up to the position I was in before I left Northern Virginia, a manager. I never thought I would do that. And that was enough for me, because I didn't have any concept of how much further I could go. No one in my family had gone to college. My mother hadn't made it past 6th grade. Manager in a retail store was pretty damn good, as far as I was concerned. But luckily, I had married into a family that understood and stressed the value of higher education. Sign up for at least one class. See if you like it. You won't know unless you try. My mother-in-law's gentle persistence eventually talked me into it. 2 classes, a child development class and English 251, which is multicultural children's literature. I love books, adore children's books, and want the whole world to be able to read. Maybe I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, but I knew what was important to me, so I started like that. It's frightening returning to a setting so unfamiliar. Classrooms and hallways, students with backpacks, the frantic pace that characterizes the start of a semester. It's also alien to me. Open your books and pay attention. This is your future. Where is my future? I was excited by the prospect of a children's literature class. I envisioned a class that resembled my bookstore. I could sit and read kids' books all day and discuss in detail the picture composition in John J. Moore's Zen Shorts or the allegory in Old Turtle, or whatever. Well, it wasn't exactly what I expected, and I didn't know half as much as I thought. And I was also lucky enough to be in a class that let me share everything I was learning and excited about with others, specifically the 2nd and 3rd grade students at Palmer Elementary. Unknown to me, I had signed up for a service learning class. I didn't really understand what that meant at the time. All I knew was that I had an opportunity to spend some time with the kids in the GRPS Loop program, sharing stories I found near and dear to my heart, and giving them a chance to try things from cultures they'd never experienced. Growing up in a multicultural household, I remember how interested and excited I was every time I tried a new food or heard a new song. I wanted to share that with kids who possibly were never around anyone except for people of their own race or culture. That multicultural experience was so central to my life, so important, it became almost commonplace. I grew up never seeing any difference between someone who was white, black, Hispanic, or anything else. I wanted the children to be able to explore the differences between themselves and other cultures, but at the same time see the similarities we all share, like the value placed on friendship, love, and family. Third try, sorry. In groups of 2, we shared stories from Japan and tried to use chopsticks to pick up fake sushi, read Anansi tales from West Africa, and tasted fufu, African plantain flour bread, and created collages that resembled the pictures in the Caldecott-winning book, Smoky Night. Those are the kids I read to at Palmer, and that was my partner. And that was a little gift they gave me at the end of the experience, and they were wonderful. In the midst of this class, an opportunity was presented to us via a small 3x4 card advertising a campus-wide event for Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Be an advocate, it said, make a difference. So, on a whim, simply because I was downstairs getting a drink from the vending machines, I stopped at the Academic Service Learning Center to see what I could do to help. I was unaware of how much this simple act would change my life and enable me to begin to change the lives of people around me. I ended up volunteering for the MLK service event, which was in conjunction with what was then Interfaith Hospitality Network, which is now Family Promise. We met with the director of the center, Mary Kay Baker, and she told us about the organization and what they do. I could see in her eyes and hear in the tone of her voice how passionately she felt about the issues of homelessness and how it sincerely, honestly affected her. She explained that we would be soliciting donations of something very simple, white t-shirts for the families at the center. We would then visit the center and meet with one of the families staying there to hear their personal story. Everything I experienced with that event opened my eyes a little more, made me think a little differently, or begin to think about issues I hadn't even considered before. Homelessness never affected me, not really. Sure, I did grow up pretty poor, but from what I remember, I always had a roof on my head. I campaigned hard for donations and participation in that event, and initially, it was mainly because whenever I do something, I try my hardest to do it to the best of my ability. It wasn't really about the cause or about the spirit of the day. That was something I began to appreciate and understand later. Only very recently have my eyes become open to what the event has meant to me, and how I began to realize that I could change things. I could do something for the common good. The family I met on that day of the drop-off at the center really touched my heart. A mother with 2 teenage daughters, struggling for them and for herself. 2 reluctant teenage daughters, obviously ashamed and embarrassed by the situation they found their family in, and leaning more towards the direction of friends and boyfriends as support, rather than stay in school or help their mother. Now that she was homeless, their mother had even less control. What do I do here? I asked their mother, what do they need? And she simply said, someone other than me telling them they need to stay in school. I don't want my daughters to ever be in the situation I'm in today. That's easy to say, but if I'm just spouting out the same things their mother is saying, sitting here in the day center with them, that's not going to change anything. So I decided to do one of the things I knew how to do best. I took them shopping. They had no new clothes for the transition to their new school, and being these were very fashion-conscious girls, I figured this would be a good way to reach them. I told them that these were school clothes, which meant they needed to be going to school to get them, and they readily agreed. I knew they would say yes either way, but taking them shopping, giving them an opportunity to do something that made their lives seem a little more normal, a little less crazy, gave me ample time to talk to them about their situation. At the end of the day, when I dropped them back off of the center, the older girl turned around and looked at me so sincerely, and she said, I love you. Thank you for everything, and hugged me before I went. And I really think she did mean everything, not just the clothes. I had always wished that when I was their age that someone would have pulled me aside, spent some time with me, mentored me, and just really woke me up to what I was doing. Just looked me in the eye and said, what the hell? Wake up. Look at your life. Look where you're heading. Would I have changed anything I did? Probably not. But I would have known that someone cared and maybe thought twice before I did some of the crazier things I did throughout my teenage years. maybe not made so many of the big mistakes. So did what I say affect those girls? Did they go to school? The answer was yes, for a while. That family found a home a few weeks later, and I've kept in contact with them on occasion. Well, they're not in a traditional school system. They're in a school system that is working for them, and they're going, which is the important thing. I am still involved in Family Promise to this day, but in a different capacity, one that sparked out of a casual comment and something I remembered a few months after the MLK event. During the tour of the day center, I noticed a shelf full of children's books, and I said, "That's great, there's books here for the kids to read. It's really important, you know?" And the woman who was giving the tour remarked, "Yes, but I'm afraid they don't get read so often. Some of the parents struggle to read themselves, and I think a lot of them don't feel it's important." Not important? My heart stopped. Wow. That was that still is one of the most important things in the whole world to me. It was so hard for me to wrap my head around someone who feels like that, but I know people feel that way. I offhandedly replied something like, "Oh, well, I'd like to come in and read to the kids here sometime, if that's okay. I really feel that it's critical to a child's development." The lady at Family Promise said, "That'd be wonderful. Just send Mary Kay an email sometime and let her know what your plan is." And we left the conversation at that. I sent an email, and then another, and still another. No response. I know Mary Kay was a very busy woman, and I was becoming a very busy woman with all the transitions going on in my life, so I didn't think much of it. Until one day, when I was reading my son a book and delighting in his obvious enjoyment of the individual attention and interaction with the story, did I remind myself of what I had told Family Promise and how little I was really investing in it. It was time for me to act. One more email, I told myself. Then I'd think of something more drastic to get this accomplished. To my delight, Mary Kay responded promptly and apologetically, saying she was pleased I still remembered, and let's meet and hash out all the details. Details. I had this brilliant thought and no real knowledge of how I would actually carry out this project. I have no formal education in anything to do with nonprofits. Martin Luther King Jr. Day was the first time I really volunteered for anything, and I have just a basic early literacy background. This is all me sort of running blind and hoping for the best. But what I did have was a strong desire to provide books and literary enrichment for kids who had none. Brainstorming, I recalled book bags, tote bags with the book and literacy activities that the GRCC preschool used. And I thought, hey, that idea is going to work for this program. It's self-contained. Anyone could come in and read with the kids as long as there is an instruction and activity sheet. And the materials are inexpensive and easy to replace when depleted. I can do this. So I quickly put together a PowerPoint and printed out the slides, taking them to Mary Kay with more questions than I had answers. Funding? I had none. But I had a job, and I knew how to bargain shop with the best of them. I figured it out as I went along, and I'm still figuring it out as I go along. I get the green light from Mary Kay, who is and always will be such a source of hope and encouragement for me. It was a rough start. I put together about 4 bags complete with materials and books and took them on a test run. I went into Family Promise a little scared and a little unsure of what I was doing, but I knew I wanted to do it. I will always remember one of the little boys I read to the first time. He was about 5 years old and was there because his father had lost his job with a manufacturing plant and was obviously a little bummed to be spending his summer months away from his friends and in a new place. His name was River. And I remember because I told him how much I liked his name and that it was very unique, and he must be a pretty cool guy to have an awesome name like that. He smiled up at me and asked me what I was going to read to him, and that smile was all I needed to be reassured in what I was doing. We sat down and read The Gruffalo, and he giggled and asked questions about the story and really seemed to enjoy it. We made Gruffalo mask and roared and chased each other around for about an hour. When I got up to leave, he goes, "Are you going to come back and read to me again soon?" And I told him yes. I promise I'll come back. And I'm happy to say that the little boy and his family are in a home. And I was lucky enough to be able to donate an extra bed we had to River. I probably read to him 3 or 4 more times. And he left with a few books in his hands, and his mother left with some family literacy information to hopefully continue River's positive literacy experiences in a home setting. I had frequented Salvation Army and other thrift stores for books in good condition and picked up most of them for about a quarter apiece. That was great, but I was still spending my own money, what little of it I had, to set up this program. I knew a time would come when it would soon be too expensive for me to do this on my own, and I didn't want Family Promise to reimburse me constantly. It just didn't feel right. So I searched out other options for books because I really wanted each child to leave the center with at least one book they could call their own. I stumbled upon a grant available for nonprofit programs from Kent ISD. I mentioned it to Mary Kay, and she said she'd have a grant writer write on it. I have no idea to this day who that grant writer was, but I thank them from the bottom of my heart. We got the grant. I couldn't believe it when Mary Kay told me. She called me at home pretty early, as I recall. She wanted me to find out as soon as possible. It was around $1,700 and to be used through Scholastic Literacy Partners with a cost of about $2 a book. So I happily ordered 800 plus books for the kids at the center, which equated to everyone leaving with about 6 to 8 books. I was ecstatic. I couldn't believe that someone would give this little literacy program I created any help or money. I'm so grateful to Kent ISD and Scholastic for allowing me to not only read and spend time with the kids at the center, but to be able to give them books when they find their homes. Sometimes it's the only thing the kids have that's their own, and I'm happy to provide that to them. Every child should have reading material. In the middle of all this excitement, I realized that I still needed one concrete thing funding would not provide me: volunteers. Still need volunteers. I couldn't be the only person going into the center week after week. I knew I needed some help. I found out through the Academic Service Learning Center at GRCC. Nonprofits are able to post their volunteer opportunities on their website and bulletin board at the college. I figured this would be perfect for college kids. Flexible timing, not a huge commitment, perfect for a busy student. I made an appointment to meet with the new director of the ASLC, Dr. Ferlin, as soon as I could. So again, not really understanding what I was doing, I put together all the information I had regarding the program I created in a nice binder and headed in to meet with Dr. Ferlin. I was a bit nervous, I think. I don't do this. I never dress up to meet with someone, never had to go somewhere and make my case. This was new territory for me. Well, I guess Dr. Ferlin was somewhat impressed with me. She not only let me post my volunteer opportunity up on the board, she also offered me a chance to become a student scholar, a new program that ASLC was just creating. Student scholars would work to plan 8 different large events on campus per year that would connect the campus with the community, and would have the chance to become Michigan Service Scholars, earning a $1,000 scholarship. Sounded great to me. I jumped on board right away. It's funny how one thing leads to another, and another, and another. And suddenly, your whole worlds are interconnected. You're expanding your network, learning and growing, and able to do more than you thought you could. From working with the student scholars, I was asked to work for the ASLC for the month of July to assist with some new programs being implemented. Based on the work I did in July and being eligible for community service work study, I was asked to stay on at the center and continue my work, which is where I am now. I'm still volunteering for Family Promise, still passionate about children's literacy issues, but I've also worked with Heartside Ministries, the Literacy Center of West Michigan. I'm a tutor for them. The Transitions Workshop held here at GRCC, and a number of other places I didn't realize existed. I met so many wonderful people who are active with nonprofits in the area and learn and continue to learn so much from them. And I learned so much from the people I serve. I learned humbleness, compassion, true caring, and the ability to carry on when all seems lost. I'm a stronger person than I was when I left Northern Virginia, more sure of myself and my direction in my life. I'm confident in what I'm doing, but open to new possibilities. Nothing is certain in our world, and I'm the first one to realize that. I continue to find myself more and more involved on campus and in our community. I'm a student leader for a club on campus now, and as a result, a member of Student Congress. I'm working on a community service committee with some other dedicated members of Student Congress as well, because that's important to me. Again, worlds interconnecting, paths crossing. Because of all the choices I made here at GRCC and the experiences I've had with the service learning on campus and the wonderful faculty, students, and mentors, I've done things I never thought I would be able to do. Never. GRCC has enabled me to complete this transition period in my life, answering my question, what is my future? My future lies in this community. My hope to someday create sustainable change, my ability to start creating that change, and the opportunities that are presented to me through this campus and beyond. I sincerely thank everyone who has pushed me, challenged me, and led me to be able to do what I am doing today. You all know who you are. Thank you.